Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Nathan. I'm here. I'm the head of our customer success team here at TipHaus. Excited to talk to everyone today about basically holiday events coming up. Where's everyone joining from? If you can drop that in the chat just to get some comments going, we'd love to see where you're tuning in today. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to get started and talking about how you can use TipHaus to really bring some peace of mind and some automation to your TipHaus account and to really Q4 as you go into some of the most profitable time of the year. Like I said, I'm Nathan. I lead our customer success team here at TipHaus. Been with TipHaus for about 4 years, so I've seen the cycle of, hey, how does TipHaus work through the holiday season, the busyness of everything, and so I'm excited to talk about that today. At a high level, just from the housekeeping side of things, we have the live chat. Make sure you're talking. We want to see that engagement in the chat if at all possible. And don't worry, we have this recorded. We're going to send that afterwards to everybody who's registered. And we're going to, in the chat, talk through helpful links as well as other areas where you can go and have a one-on-one session. So don't worry about all that. If you miss some pieces of the webinar here today, no worries. We're happy to run through those pieces with you afterwards. So my goal here today is really to just think about, hey, Q4 here is our most profitable time of the year. It's also can be stressful. And so what we want to do is say, hey, how can we set up your TipHaus account now as we go into, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and what that means for the restaurant industry? And do some things ahead of time, right? So we can focus on the guest experience in December and not necessarily worrying about payroll math and different sort of execution things that we don't necessarily know if we're prepared for, right? So how can we be proactive on that here in this time of the year? So just thinking about the holiday season, right? We're going to have increased volume, right? We're going to have private events. We're going to have full staff buyouts. We're going to have more staff needed to handle the sales volume. You're probably going to have lots of staff call out for different holiday seasons. Also, people are going to get sick. The sickness travels around during the holiday season, right? Fixed price menus, unique pooling tipping situations, right? There's a lot more potential complexity that comes with the holidays season. And so what we're just going to try to talk through today is how we can help on that side, right? We want to avoid errors. We want to avoid any audit exposure or really any manager burnout or employee burnout. There's a lot going on, with the holiday season, and how can we avoid some of those things? So at a high level, we've got three different ways here that I've seen over the past few years how different folks are using TipHaus to help with different event setups, right? So a lot of times what the holiday process means from a TipHaus perspective is, hey, I've got this full house buyout. I've got this corporate event going on. I've got this unique scenario that we're doing on New Year's Eve that we don't do the rest of the year, right? There's a lot of different scenarios that are going on. And so what I want to talk through are three different ways that you can use TipHaus and kind of set things up maybe ahead of time to set yourself up for success as you get towards those holiday events. And these things can kind of be used one-off. They can also be used together. And you can kind of think about this not just for this holiday season, but, throughout the years, whether it's Valentine's Day, there's kind of different things that you can kind of set up here over time. And so we're going to talk through those things. The first one that I like to think of is really thinking about having custom event job codes in the point of sale. So this is something that you can imagine. Let's say you've got a property where you've got your main dining area, and then you've got private event spaces that are separate from the main dining area. And your servers that are helping on those events really mostly engage on those event spaces separately from the rest of your dining area, right? So if they're going to be working regular tables and they're going to be working private events, this doesn't really oftentimes make sense. But what you can do is if you've got to say, hey, we're going to have event server job codes, or maybe you've got a private club or different things going on at the property where servers are going to be clocking into specific event job codes, you can set that up in TipHaus, set up those rules, or excuse me, set up that job code in the point of sale or whatever your labor system is, and then configure those job codes with those specific event job codes. You can set specific TipHaus rules inside of TipHaus. The big downside to me on why a lot of folks don't end up doing this is that if you've got separate event job codes in the point of sale that you then have separate rules for inside of TipHaus, you're oftentimes having to deal with managing the clock outs differently than you would on a standard service. And managing employees clocking into the right job code is it's more operational burden that you oftentimes don't want to carry, especially in the holiday season where it's busy as it is. So it can be helpful. I would say it's more helpful if you're doing these types of events in a separate space all year round. If it's just happening during the holiday season, I would say that this type of management of event-specific job codes that you create in the point of sale are often not necessarily going to be the most helpful. Now, our next example is really kind of thinking about how can you set up tip rules using TipHaus custom job codes and not point of sale custom job codes. And this really kind of opens up an entirely new way of thinking about TipHaus, where you can create job codes in TipHaus and then apply that to specific rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to our client dashboard and talk through some different scenarios that I've got set up. So one of the ways that I have this set up is in my demo account here, this location Seagull Stacks. What I've got is I've got a specific rule called full house buyout. Now I'll show you and kind of walk you through how I created this. Under the job codes area, you'll see kind of the list of job codes, and most of these are created in the point of sale, but you'll see this little custom tag here called full house buyout. And what this does is this kind of highlights, hey, this custom job code was created inside of TipHaus and was not created in the point of sale. The way you go about this is you click actions and then create a custom job code, and you can call it whatever you want, and then click submit, and then that creates it here. Now, these job codes, employees are not necessarily going to be clocking into because they're just in the TipHaus side of it. They don't push back into the point of sale or anything like that. But now you can use this job code in specific rules. So what I did was I created this rule called full house buyout. Now you'll see the rest of the rules that are here. We've got a server to bar tip out based on alcohol sales. We've got a bar to expo tip out based on food sales, this sort of thing. So kind of standard tip sharing rules. But the way we've got this kind of set up is, hey, when there is a full house buyout, I don't want to do our standard tip sharing rules. What I want to do is say, hey, we're going to have an even house pool across the job codes where everyone's even. So I'll show you what I did. Under here, we've got this full house buyout rule where I've got 100% of tips essentially going into a pool, where I've got my custom job code here called full house buyout. And then I've got all my job codes sitting in here. And because I'm tip sharing 100% of my tips, this is essentially a pool. And what I can do here is only apply this rule. It can sit here all year round, really, but I can only apply it when I want to. And so it gives me a lot of flexibility. I can come in here and just kind of give you an idea. I went yesterday, and just ahead of time here, what I did was I did what's called a batch job code assignment. This is one of the specific actions that you can do inside of TipHaus. So I click this actions and then batch job code assignment. And then I click full house buyout. And then I click select sales. So what I'm doing is saying, hey, ahead of time, I know that I'm going to create this rule. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to select all the sales. And I'm going to assign that to all of the sales here on the day. And then you'll see here this sale assignment. That's what happens when you do that batch job code assignment, is I applied this to all of the sales on that day. When that happens, I go here to my breakdown, and you'll see that basically all of the tips on that day got assigned this full house buyout job code. The hours don't get adjusted. The hours are still the 8 hours for the bartender here for Sister and D'Angelo. Their hours are staying the same as to what they clocked into, but the sales were applying that specific full house buyout job code. And what you'll notice is, because I had this daily rule that's based on the hours worked per day, the take home per hour for everyone that day was $7.56. That's just taking the total tips for the day and distributing it out. And that's evenly applying that take home based on their hours worked for the day. Now, this isn't something that I want to apply every day, because my standard rules are going to be server to bar tip out, this and that sort of thing. But maybe on the full house buyout, I'm going to have a very specific set of rules. In my case, it was an even pool to everybody that worked on that day based on the hours worked. And so this kind of gives me that flexibility. Now, you can kind of have a similar concept to what I did here for my Bogies Bonanza location. I've still got my server to bar tip out, my bar to expo, but you'll see my standard tip out is 3% from server to bar. But what I did was I made a different custom job code called New Year's Eve event. And that one, I'm increasing my server to bar tip out to 5%. On this day, I want to increase that amount. New Year's Eve is going to be a lot of drinks flowing, right? So we're going to do an increased tip out. And the way I did that was that same logic. I went in here and I created this New Year's Eve event job code. I created that specific rule with this New Year's Eve event job code. I went in here and I assigned it only to the servers, right? So the way I did that was I basically just filtered to the server job code from within here and submitted that. And that basically made it so that I could apply this only to the server sales. The bartender sales I didn't adjust. And so going back here, we can see that for these specific events, the tip share on this day, because I applied that job code, is 5% tip out from server to bar. And that's applying on those specific sales. So this concept is really, hey, you can set up as many scenarios as you want. You can make as many custom job codes as you want. We won't limit you. And then you can set up all these specific rules and then do it ahead of time. And then basically, as soon as you're ready to use it, you just go apply that job code to the sales, and it'll go ahead and do that automation for you. Now, that really gives you a lot of flexibility. You can set up all the different scenarios you want, and you can apply it to specific schedules as well. But that's kind of the second option. The third option that we want to talk through here is our custom team adjustment functionality. So this also gives you a lot of flexibility. It's really that other option within the actions profile here. And I'll go ahead and do this on Quixote Valley, which is my other option here today, my other demo location. And so what I know is that yesterday, Taryn and Leone, they worked together. They worked all day together, and they pooled their tips between each other. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Leone's sales. And what I'm going to do is click actions. And then instead of batch job code assignment, I'm going to click custom team adjustment. And then I'm going to select these sales. From here, I'm going to click customize team. And then I'm going to select, kind of walk through this modal here. Select tip types. It's going to show me all the sales here and what tips got applied, whether they're credit card, gift card, or gratuity service charge. And then from here, I'm going to be clicking the specific employees. It was Leone that was splitting with, I believe it was Taryn. Yeah, Taryn Langworth. And so from within here, we can do this split kind of a couple different ways. You'll see here by default, we're splitting evenly based on our points or our percentages. Each person that you add basically keeps it even based on the percentage. But you can adjust this. Let's add a third person here. You can adjust this kind of however you want. Based on these points, you can think of them as really flexible within the system. We can treat them as percentages if we want. Let's say we want Leone to get 50%. We want Taryn to get 20%, and we want Stefania to get 30%. As long as my points add up to 100, this percent split can really get split evenly that way. The other thing that we can do is if we want to do an exact dollar amount and we want to say, hey, I want, let's say $30 to go to Lenny, and then I want $10 to go to Taryn, and then I want, what's the rest here? $2.57. Okay, I'm going to click $2.57. I can go ahead and apply that, and as long as my points equal my dollars, then this amount received is going to match that exactly. So you get a little bit of flexibility here. But let's say I just kind of want to go back and really just keep it even. That's our kind of standard setup here. We can go here, and then I've got my standard tip sharing rules get applied. And then on this area, we've got it evenly splitting in here. I go ahead and click submit. And then what you'll see is, hey, this custom team adjustment is getting applied, and you'll see this blue icon here. So if I look at, say, this example, you'll see, hey, here's the $18 on this check. You'll see that tip sharing rules were applied on this custom team adjustment. And then you can go ahead and remove this assignment here if you would like. And it just kind of shows, hey, ultimately, the distributions still tipping out the bar, still tipping out the back of house, and then whatever is left over is getting pooled here to Lenny and Taryn. So these are really three different ways here: this custom team adjustment, this batch job code assignment with custom job codes inside of TipHaus, and then using event-specific job codes in the point of sale. You can kind of think of those as three separate potential options. You can also apply them together if you want to do this server tip out, but then you want to apply that New Year's Eve job code within the inside of the application. You can do both. You can do a custom team adjustment and then do a batch job code assignment on top of that. I'm going to grab the cook job code just here as an example. It's kind of silly because there's no cook rules that are going to tip out, but you could do that if there was a specific job code that you set up ahead of time for that scenario. So lots of flexibility here on the three different applications of the platform. I'm going to head back here to our slideshow, just kind of talk through the final pieces here. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is say, hey, can we trade 30 minutes of setup here in early November, mid-November, make your December a little bit easier as you go through, the different holiday events. We want to audit our existing rules. We want to define the specific setups that we're going to have, whether that's specific event types, stage our rules early, and then apply them as we need to going through the holiday season. So set up those job codes, stage your rules, and feel good about going into December like it's a normal rest of the year, even though the rest of the years are going to be a little bit easier than December. We're still giving you that flexibility here. So I'm going into the Q&A session here just to answer some of these questions. So it looks like, hey, some of these ones, how do I handle scenarios where employees are working multiple events on a single shift and different groups of employees should get the tips from different events? In that scenario, I really think that custom team adjustment is going to be your best way to handle that specific scenario. The custom team adjustment allows you to say, hey, I'm going to isolate this specific sale and I'm going to give it to this specific group of employees in a very specific way. If they're working multiple events, you're going to have those different checks that ring in. Some folks, they do it where inside of the point of sale, you will have ghost drawers where it'll say event room 1 and then event room 2. And then you'll know, hey, when they ring in that sale, just ring it under this specific drawer. That'll make it nice and easy to find it inside of TipHaus. But even if the servers keep it under their number, you just isolate those sales in the reporting filter, and you'll be able to find that inside, and then do a custom team adjustment to those specific sales. James is asking, is there a limit to the number of custom job codes? Nope. You can create as many custom job codes as you want. Set them up really for the whole year if you want to be able to plan ahead. What's your Valentine's Day configuration going to look like? What's your, St. Patrick's Day for our Irish bars out there, right? There's a lot of different things that you can set up ahead of time. Now, if your rules really stay the same and they're not going to get adjusted for holiday season, then no need to mess with any rule creation. But what times often happens is on these holidays, you're going to get an abundance of tips, and the people that are really doing the work for those tips on that specific holiday lends it that you might want to do something different on those holidays than the rest of the year. And so it just kind of depends on the organization, how those events are placed out, if that makes sense or not. But that's really kind of one of the factors to think about. Another question here from James. Is it possible to set the holiday rules in advance? Only specific job codes and designated future date and time. Yeah, I mean, you can create the rule inside of TipHaus and then leave it inactive if you'd want to, and then activate the rule at a specific date. That's definitely functionality that's possible, but really you can leave them all active, and then they won't trigger if you use the custom job code. They're not going to trigger until you go and batch job code assign those sales. So oftentimes it doesn't really make sense to leave them inactive as rules. You can leave them active, and then they just don't trigger until you do that specific batch job code assignment. So it gives you kind of the flexibility in either way to kind of handle that piece. Let's see here. I think that's kind of all I'm seeing here. Looks like Sebastian answered a few of these questions, which is great. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and then just kind of finish up here. So one thing I wanted to talk about was you can unlock free TipHaus months with using our House Bucks referral program. Now, the thing I know about the restaurant industry is we've got lots of friends, people that you used to work with at a different restaurant. They moved on, they moved into management at a new place. And you know that they might be stuck in spreadsheets throughout the year, or they're using some different system that isn't so automated. You refer them, bring them into TipHaus, and know, hey, I've been able to save some time and bring them into the TipHaus fold here. And you'll be able to get some free months of TipHaus. If they use our Earn Tip Access program, there's double the amounts of free months. So there's lots of potential here. Feel free to scan the QR code here to be able to find out more about the program. And just at a high level, some options here that you have to be able to prep yourself for the holiday season. Go in, create that full house buyout custom job code, and set up that rule if you want to do that now. If that's something that you have as an organization where, hey, I'm going to do this specific event setup, go ahead and do that. And then if you want to schedule one-on-one time, you walk through this and maybe something didn't quite click, you can actually schedule a time with our team to have a one-on-one holiday prep session where you'll be able to work with our folks to walk through your specific event scenarios if that's something that you want to do. So really appreciate the time here today, team. Like I said, we're here to help. Always here to support the restaurants as they're going through Q4, and really appreciate the time.